Hello, everyone. This is Glenn Walters from Design Workshop. We are going to get started here in a minute. We're giving people a few more minutes to join the conference. So 6:05 is in 3 minutes. So maybe we'll get started at exactly 6:05. Thank you. This is like waiting for the pot to boil. Okay, let's get started. As mentioned, my name is Glenn Walters. We have Lindsay and Emily with us tonight, and we're from Design Workshop. We have been asked by the county, Beaufort County, to work with them to prepare an update to the green print plan, as well as an update to the comprehensive plan. And tonight we are here to discuss the green print plan. It's the second workshop we've had on the green print plan. We really, really wish that we were there with you in person. We really value a community-based process and being with the folks that live in the places that we're working and listening and hearing, but we're doing the best we can and are thankful that we have a lot of digital tools that we're able to use to be able to communicate with you. This is really important. By doing both of these plans, we are able to link open space and natural resource planning more deliberately with growth management and development planning. And both of those things are important to the county, right? And both of those things are valued by people in the county. We want growth, we want prosperity, we want great places to live, and we also want to preserve the natural environment that makes Beaufort County such a special place. And so tonight we are going to go through a process where we will have a presentation that Lindsay will give, and then we will have some survey questions that get a sense of your priorities. and then we will have a chance for everyone to provide comments and questions. Along the way, there's a chat function in your program there that you're working on, and so we would hope that you would send us questions along the way, and we'll do our best to respond to the ones that we can immediately, and we will gather all those questions and provide answer to those questions on the website. Lindsay, I'm having trouble seeing the presentation, so maybe you can take over from here.
Okay, that sounds good. And maybe let us know in the questions field if anyone else is having any trouble seeing the slides. But we'll go ahead and get into it. So what is the Greenprint Plan? The Greenprint Plan is a planning tool that promotes ecological health and cultural landscape preservation in Beaufort County. It informs the county's rural and critical land preservation program, and it can also be a resource for the county's public and private conservation partners. The recommendations of the county's Greenprint Plan are informed by Beaufort County's culture and its unique ecology. The plan identifies 6 types of priority land, and it recommends how to protect those priority lands through tools including public land purchase, conservation easements, and a mix of planning and zoning strategies. And we'll get into a little bit more detail about these different types of land and different conservation tools a little bit further down. The map on the screen now shows the lands that are currently protected in Beaufort County. The teal green color are lands that are protected either through public ownership or conservation easements, and sometimes both. The light gray areas show lands that have some level of protection through rural or natural preserve zoning, and the red outlines show the target conservation areas that were identified through the latest Greenprint Plan process, which happened in 2014. The Greenprint Plan is also an educational tool. It informs the public and government officials about the financial, environmental, and overall quality of life benefits of land conservation. These figures on the screen now are from a Trust for Public Land report that quantifies some of the benefits of open space in Beaufort County. That full report that we list down at the bottom of the screen can be found online. So why is the Greenprint Plan important? Beaufort County has a unique natural environment that's essential to residents' way of life and also critical to the health of the Beaufort County economy. This slide shows more figures from the Trust for Public Land report, which found that, among other things, the county's open spaces generate $28 million annually in agricultural products, $116 million in annual visitor spending, and $127 million in property value increases for homes that are close to parks, trails, and open spaces. The Greenprint is an important planning tool because Beaufort County has a dynamic environment that has changed and will continue to change over time due to human forces such as development, and also due to natural forces such as storm surge and king tides. These changes could grow more intense as sea levels continue to rise and as Beaufort County's population continues to grow. So given these trends and the longstanding development constraints posed by Beaufort County's natural environment, the Greenprint Plan's focus on strategic land conservation is really important to help strike a balance so that Beaufort County can accommodate growth while sustaining this unique place and a unique way of life. The Greenprint Plan is undergoing one of its regular updates right now, and we're asking you all, Beaufort County residents, to weigh in and to help guide that planning process. Through this public process, the residents of Beaufort County guide the priorities and strategies of the Greenprint Plan, which then informs the land conservation recommendations of the county's Rural and Critical Land Preservation Board. Through bond referenda, the public also pays for the Rural and Critical Land Program, and that budget funds the protection of priority lands based on recommendations made by the Rural and Critical Land Board to Beaufort County Council. And because the Greenprint Plan has this focus on community-informed strategic land conservation, the Greenprint Plan also stands to be an important reference document for other local and regional plans. So what's next? We have mapped the priority conservation land by type across the county, and we'll review those maps. Now we need feedback on which types of land are most important to protect. And then based on your feedback, we'll work to identify specific priority conservation parcels in order to ultimately update the Greenprint Plan map and to focus the county's conservation efforts and dollars. We've mapped the different types of priority land that are traditionally targeted for protection by public and private conservation efforts. And because conservation resources are limited, we're asking you all to review those maps and to give us feedback on which types of land are the most important to protect. And we'll start with cultural landscapes. We'll be walking through about a dozen or so maps in the following slides. And after the meeting, if you want to look at the maps more closely, you can go to the project website, envisionbeaufortcounty.com, and find a story map that has all of this content, including the maps, available for closer review. And there's also a link where you can go and click to zoom in and out on these maps. So cultural landscapes include lands that are important to protect because of their significance to Beaufort County history and important scenic views. This map shows the county's historic sites and districts, both at the local and the national level. It also shows the county's scenic byways and highways and the canopy roads, which are defined by Beaufort County.
Canopy roads are those roads that have tree canopies across them. They remind us of what Beaufort County used to be, with a beautiful live oak canopy across a 2-lane road. Mm-hmm.
And that's an important part of the scenic values that we're trying to map and trying to protect through the Greenprint Plan. The cultural landscapes also address protection of Beaufort County's rural character. So here we see the canopy roads again, and the beige color on this map shows the areas of the county that have been zoned as rural. And last, for cultural landscapes, is the county's recreational and economic connection to water. This map labels the county's working waterfronts with these blue leader lines. Those are the county's working waterfronts. It also shows through the little color-coded icons the different public water access points throughout Beaufort County. Recreation lands are important because they protect the habitat and stormwater functions of open space while also promoting the health and happiness of county residents. This map shows the county's existing and proposed public trail network, along with the county's paddle trail data, state and local parks, and public water access points. Land conservation in Beaufort County can promote water quality by targeting priority land within certain watersheds, which are the land areas that drain to a specific water body. This map shows one particular level of watershed boundaries for Beaufort County. One way of identifying target conservation land is to look upstream in polluted watersheds. This map is from the state. It shows in gold and beige the areas where shellfish harvest is restricted due to water quality. And this map shows work that's been done by the Nature Conservancy with the Port Royal Sound Foundation to identify lands that are critical to water quality within the larger Port Royal Sound watershed. This data is also all available online. Critical habitat lands preserve open space for people while also providing food, shelter, and nesting grounds to protect local wildlife. They include conservation corridors that allow for movement across habitats. This map shows important habitat corridors that have been identified through another study by the Nature Conservancy. In Beaufort County, other types of critical habitat include the healthy upland pine forests that are often threatened by development, the maritime forest, that's one of Beaufort County and the Low Country's most iconic landscapes, freshwater wetlands, which are also under threat from the double impacts of development and sea level rise, and the low-lying marsh islands that are also vulnerable to future development. Hazard zones are those areas of the county where the health, safety, and welfare of residents are at risk from natural forces. That includes land in the floodplain. This map shows the 100-year and 500-year flood zones. And that also includes land that's projected to be impacted by sea level rise. This is data from NOAA showing the 1 foot, 2 foot, and 3 foot sea level rise projections for Beaufort County relative to mean higher high water. And finally, connectivity refers to opportunities to fill gaps in the county's trail network in order to better connect existing and future protected open spaces. This map shows in green the county's currently protected lands, and in red and pink are the county's existing and proposed public trail network. So the Green Print Plan can play a role in planning for better connections between these and future open space assets. And this is the last section before we move over to Q&A. After we identify and map the priority land, what are the tools that the Green Print Plan should recommend in order to protect that priority land? We'll walk through a few of those tools and their trade-offs, and we'll be asking you all to give feedback on the best mix of strategies to protect land in Beaufort County. First, when Beaufort County purchases priority land through the Rural and Critical Land Program, the county owns and manages the land. Often that land is made available for public access and recreation. Because future county leaders could choose to sell the land, it legally has no permanent protection. Publicly owned land can also be protected by a conservation easement. A conservation easement is a voluntary legal agreement that permanently limits uses of the land in order to protect its conservation values. Each easement is specific to the property, and it describes how the land must be protected and managed over time. On public land, the easement can still allow public access, and it guarantees the land's permanent legal protection. Private landowners can also donate conservation easements to a land trust or a similar organization. When they do that, they're guaranteeing specific land protections in return for individual tax benefits. The land continues to be owned and managed by the individual landowners, and the land is permanently protected. conservation easements can allow for limited development. In Beaufort County, for example, some easements specifically allow for development that would let future generations to continue to live on the property. Under purchase of development rights and transfer of development rights programs, the owner of land in a priority conservation area can sell or transfer their land's development rights to someone with land in a non-priority area. So these programs essentially allow for some form of compensation for people who own land in priority conservation areas where development has been restricted. Low density zoning is a traditional planning tool that allows local governments to define limits on the type and amount of development that can happen in certain defined areas. In Beaufort County, one example of this is rural zoning. Open space and buffer requirements are another traditional planning tool that can be applied to certain areas through zoning. These requirements ensure some level of open space and environmental protection in every development project that happens within that defined zone. And our last example are conservation developments or conservation subdivisions. Under these types of ordinances, a developer typically must set aside at least 30% of a site's buildable area for permanent open space protection, usually to protect a valuable ecosystem or preserve rural character. Development is clustered elsewhere on site, and it's typically allowed to be higher density in exchange for the conservation values that have been secured elsewhere on the property. Conservation developments have been shown to raise property values and to lower infrastructure costs while creating more walkable and more environmentally friendly communities. All right, and I'm going to turn it back over to Glenn and Emily. I will be posing questions that you all have been sending in through the questions box. So if you all think of any others, please go ahead and enter those into the questions field. And any questions that we're not able to get to tonight, we will address and then post those answers to the project website as soon as we can, probably sometime early next week. So one question that we have from Henry, can the permanently protected, privately owned conservation easements be used by the owner, i.e. farming?
And we'll just respond in saying that yes, that's a common use of a conservation easement, as long as the good of the public is preserved on that easement. The owner, in many cases, stays on the property and still utilizes the property. And as Lindsay mentioned, there's also flexibility for some development, usually single-family housing at a very low density is also still allowed on that property. Usually when you work with a conservation group, like the Open Lands Trust, you can negotiate some of those terms given the specifics of the condition of your property and your needs.
Great. Another question that we have from Michael. When maps refer to currently protected lands, are these just those acquired by Beaufort County, or do they include all protected lands within Beaufort County through other conservation organizations and private donations? And I can answer that one real fast. The maps that are color-coded and referring to currently protected lands include both the lands that are owned by Beaufort County, in addition to privately owned lands with conservation easements that might or might not be open to the public. So that data is from Beaufort County's Rural and Critical Land Program, but it's also from the Nature Conservancy, which keeps track of both publicly and privately owned protected land in Beaufort County.
There is a question here about whether or not we're interacting with the Coastal Conservation League, and we have had small breakout focus group conversations with them and are using a lot of their data and the maps that are represented that you see today. Maybe, Lindsay, you could add more
Yeah.
to that.
Well, I would like to add that we have, as part of our process, we have had a great group of stakeholders that really cover a lot of ground related to conservation and environmental concerns in the county and the region, and have really picked their brains, and they've been very gracious about providing us data that has helped us to create the maps that we've created.
Great. I'm seeing one question, can new sites be nominated? And how strong are scenic protections? I'll just answer that real quickly. There is a survey that's available on the project website, envisionbeaufortcounty.com, and we'll show that URL at the end of the meeting as well. But there is a survey there where people can go to a map of Beaufort County and click to put a point on the map to give us a little bit more information about a place or a view that you think is particularly important and should be protected. And so that is one way that you can give us feedback on sites that you think are particularly important, including scenic views. And then there's also a comment box on the website and contact information. So there are a few ways that you can get in touch with us to let us know particular sites or views that you think are special and should be protected. Let's see.
There's one question that says, does the Beaufort County Greenprint Plan formulate any recommendations? And so, yes, as a part of the Greenprint Plan, after going through public engagement and other stakeholder engagement, there will be recommendations as a part of the plan that will be eventually issued. But we're far from those recommendations and gathering feedback now from multiple stakeholder groups, including you all.
And Emily, I'd like to add that once the priorities around the types of environment that are important to the community to protect and the places in the county that are important to focus protection, those two sets of priorities will fold into the comprehensive plan and provide the natural resource backdrop for how the comprehensive plan considers accommodating growth and development and future land use going forward.
Do you want me to ask that one?
So this is actually a pretty unique situation, or not unique, but well, it is unique, where we're actually are linking the natural resource planning more directly with growth management planning, and the mapping that we create will be consistent across the two plans.
Great. We have one question from Robert H. Do you have an inventory of important views? Did this kind of work with the U.S. Forest Service in wildland planning?
So where we are with Viewshed, and if you're stating that you have done this work or this work has been done, we would love to collaborate with you. At this stage, what we've done is begun to inventory where important views 2 are. And so if we establish the views that we want to preserve and prioritize those, and then we can do GIS analysis on the actual view sheds to those important points. And so we have collected work that's already been done by the Open Lands Trust and others ahead of the work that we're doing today with regards to viewshed prioritization. But as a part of this effort, we'll continue any work that's already been done. And so if the Forest Service has done something that we can add into our data, what we'll do from here is begin to prioritize what those views are and hopefully find synergies with view sheds and other qualities that we want to preserve with the green print plan, so that when we have multiple benefits of certain landscape types, including view sheds, we can perhaps maybe set those as higher priority later on down the road.
One of the great things about this process is the ability to gather as much data as we possibly can and incorporate it into a really big database, so more people are able to have access to this. So anyone out there that has data or information that would be useful to the study, please get in contact with us. We would love to have it.
And just a reminder that when we wrap up the Q&A, we'll be going over to a live polling survey platform that will allow you all to weigh in on some of these questions and to share your own thoughts and priorities about land conservation, both in terms of priority lands and priority conservation tools. So we're hoping to get input from you all here in a little bit in the meeting. And there is also a link to that online survey on the project website. So if you all are willing to send that link around to people that we would really appreciate that, because we're trying to get as much input from Beaufort County residents on these questions as possible.
There are a couple questions about to what degree critical lands increase property value or proximity. There was another question about property values. Someone had read that property values within 500 feet of conserved property, 500 feet of conserved properties realize increased values. The report that Lindsay mentioned earlier by the Trust for Public Land documents a lot of these best practices, and research has been conducted across the United States and in South Carolina about the economic value of conservation lands, particularly as they relate to nearby and adjacent property values. And so Lindsay alluded to a bit of those metrics earlier on, but what you'll find when you go to this project's website and you link to the story map, you can see that report link, and there you'll find all the research that's been done. But just a summary of that research is that indeed property values do increase typically within a certain proximity of conserved lands or areas of important natural significance that they've found in the research that they've done. And so that's just one of the selling points and the tools that can be used to advocate or not advocate for certain lands to be conserved or prioritized for conservation.
One quick question that I can address, given the statement made about all of this folding into the plan, are the Cultural Protection Overlay District, Reconstruction National Heritage Area, and the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor, as well as the National Historic Landmark Districts, part of this plan's maps as well? And all of the sites that you pointed out in that question are included in the maps that we showed and in the maps that we're considering for the priority parcel mapping. And so if there are those do include the sort of officially designated sites. And if we would just say that if there are other important cultural landscapes that aren't officially designated, we would also be curious to hear about those from you all.
Lindsay, are we ready to take the poll?
I believe so. There were a lot of questions that we weren't able to answer, but we will address all of the questions on the website, I believe, yes, when we're able to get through all of them. But at this time, for the sake of time, we are going to switch over to the live polling.
Yeah, and Emily said it well, but I just want to reiterate that some of these questions may be beyond our pay grade as consultants. And so we want to make sure that we're coordinating, with people in the county to make sure that we're answering them correctly. But all of them will be given attention and answered on the website.
All right.
So,
Oh, let me. All right. So to move on to our live polling, our live survey, we're asking everyone to open in a browser window the website www.menti.com. That's MENTI.com. And when you enter that address into your browser, you will be prompted to enter a code in order to pull up our survey. And for us, that code is 48 31 13 7. So I'm going to just repeat all of that real fast to give people time to get settled and to get the survey opened. The website that we're asking you to enter into your browser is www.menti.com. That's MENTI.com. And the code is 48 31 13 7. And so I'm going to move over this. You should be seeing some version of this screen in your browser that says, what is your zip code? So if you've gone to the website menti.com and entered the code 48 31 13 7, and we've already gotten 18 responses. So I think it looks like most people have been able to find it or are making their way over there. We'll be working through about 20 sort of survey questions that are specific to the green print plan, and Glenn will be walking us through those, but we're starting off with just a few demographic questions that will allow us to take this survey and link the data up to our data that we're collecting through our SurveyMonkey. And we have 25 responses so far. I'm not sure, Glenn, how much more.
That's pretty good. There's 30 attendees.
It's pretty good. So we might.
yeah, let's move
might wanna
along.
move on. Okay.
Do you live in Beaufort County year-round? Okay.
All right. Move
That
on to the
gives
next
us a
one.
good picture.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, how old are you? Nice to see a couple of youngsters here. Great.
All right.
Please choose one or more races that you consider yourself to be. Okay.
Okay.
Are you Spanish, Hispanic, or Latino? All right.
All right.
Here we get into the questions now. What would you choose as the highest land conservation priorities for Beaufort County? Choose 5 or fewer. Cultural landscapes, rural character, scenic views, public recreation, water quality, critical habitat protection, floodplain protection, sea level rise adaptation, open space, and trails connectivity. As you're doing this, you'll see in parentheses some numbers where we have 20 questions, and so we're obviously on our first one, so that you can keep track of where we are in the process. Looks like the top 3 are cultural landscapes, water quality, and critical habitat, followed by sea level rise adaptation, rural character, and floodplain protection. Just so
Great.
everyone knows, the results of the survey will be posted back online. We have had 2 sessions, and also there will be an opportunity for people to take the survey independent of these workshops. So we're hopeful that we're going to gather up a whole bunch of good data that will inform the study. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. What areas of Beaufort County do you think are most important for targeted conservation efforts? Check all that apply. The Ace Basin, Sea Islands, Port Royal Sound watershed, the US 278 corridor, the Savannah River corridor, or other.
And you should be able to press S to see a reference map of the county if you want to orient yourself to where some of these places are generally.
I love seeing the horse race. If those of you that put other, if you could put in your chat bar what choice you would have made, that would be very helpful to us. So say question 2 of 20, I would have said X. Okay, Sea Islands, followed by Ace Basin, and Port Royal Sound watershed. And
Great.
3 others, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Should development be allowed in places where it would degrade rural character? No development allowed in rural areas, limited development or depends on the location, or all development allowed. Okay, got a good response there.
Yeah.
Should development be allowed in places where it would block important scenic views? Same answers. No development, limited development, or all development allowed. It looks like no development has 15, limited 7, all development 1.
Great. Should I move on to the next one?
Yeah.
Cool.
Should development be allowed where it would impact water quality? Okay. 17 for no development, 6 for limited development. Lindsay, I think we could go to the next question.
Great.
Should development be allowed in places where it would threaten critical habitat? No development 20, limited 3.
All right.
We're good to go. Should development be allowed in the 100-year floodplain? And we're on question 7 of 20. Got a little tighter race going here. We need you, 23.
Nobody wants to break the tie.
All right. 11 to 11. Like a football game. Let's go to the next one. Should development be allowed in areas projected to be impacted by sea level rise? Okay, looks like we're pausing on this one. No development 14, limited 7, all 1. Should development be allowed in areas where it would impact open space and trail connectivity? Six had no, and 16 had limited. And I have to point out that it's nice to see the variation from one to the next. You guys are really thinking about each one individually, which is awesome.
Mhm.
What do you think are the best land conservation tools to protect the county's rural character? Check all that apply. Public purchase of land, permanent conservation easements, restrictions on development in sensitive areas, incentives for sustainable or low impact development, no protection needed. And we're halfway there. Okay. Permanent easements, public purchase, restrictions and incentives. Great. What do you think are the best land conservation tools to protect the county's scenic views? Public purchase, permanent conservation, easement, restrictions, incentives, or we don't need protection. Okay. Permanent conservation easements followed by restrictions, then public purchase, and then incentives. What are the best land conservation tools to protect the county's water quality? check all that apply. Same list at the bottom, public purchase, conservation easements, restrictions on development, incentives for sustainable or low impact development, no protection needed.
Okay.
All right, Lindsay.
All right.
What do you think are the best land conservation tools to protect the county's critical habitat areas? Check all that apply. We're on 13 to 20 now. Okay. Permanent
All right.
easements, public purchase of land, restrictions on development.
Cool. Next one.
Yeah,
Okay.
there came one.
So hold off or go on to the next one.
You had 22, so that's.
Yeah, I'll go
Yeah, I
on.
think we're good.
Cool.
What do you think are the best land conservation tools within the county's floodplain? Check all that apply. Sounds like a train's coming, Raleigh.
We're gonna mute ourselves for a little bit.
Very nice, thank you. Restrictions on development sensitive areas 20, permanent easement 17, followed by purchase, incentives, and no protection. Same basic question. What do you think the best land conservation tools are for areas that are threatened by sea level rise? Thank you. Restrictions 21, permanent easements 13. We're at 5th. We have 5 more questions to go. And I'd like to point out, we would love to get as much feedback across the county as we possibly can get. It would make this study more reflective of the community. So if they're, if you're on this call, we really appreciate it. And if you think there's a point of view that needs representation, we would love it if you shared the information about the website to those groups so that we can get as much balance in this, in these responses as we can, and they can take the survey online. To protect priority land, how would you strike a balance between the county purchasing land and the county using ordinances to curb development? And it looks like some of you have got that sorted out where you're sliding the bar. Okay, 3.
All right.
Right in the middle, Lindsay.
Yeah.
A larger community of conservation organizations around the county, how would you strike a balance between public and private ownership of conservation land?
Right in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's go to the next one. What would you choose as the most pressing environmental challenges facing Beaufort County today? Choose 5 or fewer. Flooding, water quality in rivers and sounds, drinking water quality, loss of ecosystems and habitats, loss of fisheries, loss of farmland, development sprawl, hazard mitigation, equal access to natural environments. This is going to be a good one.
Okay, next one.
All right.
Development sprawl, followed by loss of ecosystems and habitats, and water quality in third place.
Great.
Should the findings and recommendations of the Green Print Plan influence growth management planning in Beaufort County? Yes, it should influence zoning and development standards. No, it should not influence zoning or impede development. Yes, by being a tool that helps the community to focus on conservation priorities, and yes, by defining those areas where it might not be in our best interest to develop.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right.
Let's do the last one. This is a good group. Oh, it's not even a question, is it? I think in this stage you're allowed to offer us comments. And once again, we will take all those comments and questions and organize them and answer them and respond back to the website. And I can't thank you guys enough for joining us tonight. Unfortunately, this is part of our life now. I have a feeling it might influence how things happen going forward. And as we've all mentioned, and I'm sure all of you would agree, the more response we can get to this polling and the more people viewing the presentation we can get will just enrich the study and will enrich the comprehensive plan. So help us spread the word. We also have a workshop on September 17th related to growth and development. So we'll look at the other side of the coin on that workshop, and it'll be set up very similarly where we will have a presentation and then we'll ask a series of questions related to that priority. So we hope that you all stick with us and join that presentation too. And again, help us spread the word. We really need your input.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you. Keep going with your comments. We'll keep this running. And yeah, thank you.